Hello and welcome to the 5 Minute Film Club, and welcome to the Timothy Dalton era of James Bond. After Roger Moore turned in his badge and gun at the end of shooting A View to a Kill in 1985, the hunt was on again for someone to play James Bond. A few names were in the mix, including Sam Neill, who met the approval of Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, just not the main man himself, Cubby. The role would eventually go to Pierce Brosnan. Yes, Pierce Brosnan. He had just ended a run in an American TV series called Remington Steele, something I'm not familiar with, but was big at the time. The second that Brosnan was announced as James Bond, excitement and interest in Remington Steele just went through the roof. And what happened was that NBC, who showed Remington Steele, had a contract with Pierce Brosnan and an option to make more. Well, with all the interest in Bond, they thought, actually, no, let's try and keep him. This made Cubby Broccoli furious, and he decided to cut Pierce Brosnan out of the running for James Bond. He said Remington Steele will never be James Bond. And of course, the second that Pierce Brosnan wasn't going to be the new James Bond, interest in Remington Steele plummeted, and the new series was cancelled. Timothy Dalton was having his own scheduling problems when they came asking him. He was in the process of making a film called Brenda Starr, which had been filmed in 1986, but not released in America until 1992. But finally, Dalton came on board and The Living Daylights could get started. The film returns to the source with its title and a lot of the opening portion of the film, taken from a Fleming short story of the same name. It deals with Bond assigned to help a defecting General Koskov out of Czechoslovakia to England after MI6 gets word that the old KGB policy of death to spies has been revived. While Bond tries to get Koskov out safely, he notices that the sniper after Koskov is actually the cellist from the orchestra they were both attending. He shoots to disarm her, but not kill her. Back in England, and during the debrief, Koskov is kidnapped by a Russian operative and assumed to have been flown back to Moscow at the behest of General Pushkin, and Bond is told to find him and kill him to stop any further spy deaths. Deciding that the cellist sniper, who he now learns is called Kara Milovy, probably knows more than she is letting on, and Bond traces her and discovers that the defection was staged and that she is actually Koskov's girlfriend. And Bond goes along with all of this, convincing her that he is a friend of Koskov's. While doing some actual spy work, yes, for the first time in forever, James Bond is actually doing some genuine undercover work. He witnesses a meeting between American arms dealer Brad Whitaker and Russian General Pushkin. Whitaker is trying to sell Pushkin some weapons, but Pushkin doesn't want anything to do with him. And it transpires that actually Brad Whitaker and Koskov are in partnership together. And Bond puts all of this together to realise that death to spies is actually just a scheme to get the British intelligence to get Pushkin out the way so Whitaker and Koskov can continue their plan, which involves using Soviet money to buy opium from the Mujahideen in Afghanistan and using the profits to sell arms from Whitaker back to the Soviet Union. There's quite a lot going on in Living Daylights, actually, now that I've written it all down. Anyway, that's not quite the end. To foil their plan, Bond partners with the Mujahideen, and because this is the 1980s, they are the good guys and they are fighting the nasty Reds. And armed with a load of horses, they ride into battle like Lawrence of Arabia to save the day. Aside from the now exceptionally outdated location and climax of The Living Daylights, this film is such a return to form for Bond. I love it. Originally, this film was devised as a prequel to the original series, showing how a young Bond got his 00 status. And whereas that story will come later, this is very much a reset moment for the series. First up, I absolutely love everything that Timothy Dalton is doing as James Bond. He's got a really rough edge, but also a lot of charm and charisma. Dalton went back to the source and read Fleming's books in order to get that character on the screen. And even though I've only read a couple of Bond books myself, I feel like for the first time this is actually the Bond from those books on the screen. I also love that they insist on giving Timothy Dalton the one-liners that were famous with Sean Connery and Roger Moore. And what's really great is how Timothy Dalton decides to deliver them. He knows that he can't match Roger with the comedy, so he just doesn't bother. He's got more important spy work to be doing.
I take it that this is not a social call, 007.
Correct. You should have brought lilies.
So instead he kind of chews and spits out these one-liners. It's fantastic. Also, Bond is much less of a ladies' man. This being the 1980s, they decided Bond was going to be a one-woman man. Well, at least one woman per film anyway. Mariam Darbo as Kara is someone you can see Bond actually falling for, maybe even falling in love with. She's incredibly sweet and intelligent and cultured. Her character gets a little weird at the end when she is charging around on a horse, as it feels a little bit out of character for a cellist. But still, I'd rather she was on the pitch than screaming from the sidelines. The Living Daylights is a classic Bond film, and rightly a fan favourite. I love Dalton's arrival as Bond on the Rock of Gibraltar and all the action sequences, including that brilliant sled ride. And for the first time in ages, the James Bond theme makes a reappearance during a key action sequence and feels just right, and gets me excited to keep watching. Spurred on by the vitality that Timothy Dalton brought to the role of James Bond, producers and writers decided that they would try and push the Bond formula even further, try and break it, see how far it could bend. So with that in mind, please join me on Friday for my review of Licence to Kill. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.